Are you tired of beating the same 4 hill trolls day after day? Are current random limited events just not keeping your interest right now? Are you logging in just so that you can get your primos because you're scared of missing out on future characters? Are you a new player desperately trying to catch up to everyone else so you're marathoning the entire game and feeling a little bit tired? Or are you an older player feeling like you've done just about everything you can do and are feeling a bit burnt out? Well, guess what? That's the focus of today's video, so hooray! You're in the right place. So, as some of you may have noticed, I've actually taken the past couple days off. Why is this? Genshin Burnout. Well, that and the fact that I was celebrating a family birthday, I hadn't seen my significant other in 3 weeks, and I just wanted to touch some grass for the first time in a long time. The simple fact of the matter is that we have hit one of the slowest patches in Genshin Impact to date. This isn't much of a surprise considering that we did have so much content within 2.0 and 2.1. In fact, in a previous video, I said that people should start to expect things to slow down starting in 2.2. I think it's only natural that people that play Genshin Impact a lot are going to start to feel some kind of fatigue or burnout due to the lack of content. So I wanted to take some time today to actually go over a few ways that you can avoid burnout so that you don't give up Genshin Impact permanently. These solutions are going to be fairly simple, and I'm sure that many people have thought of some of these before. However, I still wanted to give a few of my personal thoughts on things that you can do to avoid burnout, both as an old player and a new player. If you do end up finding the video helpful, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. I have been gone for a little while, so it would help me out with the algorithm. Also, feel free to share this with anyone that you think might be experiencing some burnout because it might help. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. Alright, and with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So the very first thing that I want to recommend to players is please do not burn through all of your story content in one sitting. Besides the very obvious, if you do play all of the story content, then you won't have story content to play down the line. I really do want to bring to attention that Genshin's storyline is supposed to be digested in chunks. How do I say this nicely? Although I do really like Genshin Impact's storyline and I think that the lore is very interesting, the delivery is tedious. I'm mainly bringing this up for new players that have hours upon hours of storyline ahead of them, but something that you're going to learn very quickly is that while Genshin Impact's storyline is interesting, it's also extremely slow paced and gated behind lines upon lines of dialogue and a lot, and I do mean a lot, of fetch quests. Honestly, looking all the way back at the beginning, if I had to plow through all of the storyline in one go, I would probably have to do something to myself that would honestly get me demonetized if I said it aloud on YouTube. Exposition and dialogue and even fetch quests can be fine in moderation, but if you're doing them back to back to back, that is a recipe for burning yourself out. Let's break things down. Typically, the Genshin Impact storylines will go, something interesting happens at the beginning, followed by exposition, followed by a fetch quest, followed by more exposition, then followed by another fetch quest, so on and so forth until eventually you get to the end, where it's very interesting. You'll hit the climax of the storyline, you'll have a big boss fight, and then it'll go back into exposition, fade out, and then you'll have to repeat the process all over again in the next storyline. I want to make it known that this isn't me necessarily attacking the way that Genshin Impact's story is, but I just want to let you guys know that it is repetitive by nature, and therefore if Genshin's story is not the main reason why you play, you definitely want to pace it out so that you don't get too much at one time. Instead, I personally recommend taking things in chunks, doing things a little bit at a time, and saving story moments for when you actually want to play them. Just because a new storyline dropped doesn't mean that you have to play it straight away, and just because there are players way ahead of you doesn't mean that you have to plow through storyline just to catch up to them if that's not what you want to do. So I personally just recommend taking it one step at a time and just doing what you want to do whenever you want to do it. This line of sentiment actually brings me to my next point, which has to do with the everlasting grind that is Genshin Impact. Both new players and old players know by now that Genshin Impact is all about the grind, whether it's getting new materials to level up your characters or getting the perfect artifact set to make them really shine. And while these aspects are really important for endgame content, you have to realize that grinding kind of is endgame content. What I'm trying to get at is that yes, you do want to level up your characters, yes, you do want them to be strong, but technically you don't have to have all of those things perfect in order to beat most content in the game. Most players are going to be able to get by with most of the 4-star characters that they have, with 4-star weapons, leveled up to level 70, 80, or maybe even 90 if you're really pushing for it. And if I'm being completely honest, while artifacts are definitely important for min-maxing, You can definitely get away with just decent artifacts if you're just trying to beat story content and just bosses in general. So why am I bringing this up? Mainly because I want players to shift their mentality away from I need to have perfect stats, perfect artifacts, leveled up characters all the way up to level 90, and more towards a mentality of I don't need to do this, but I want to do this. I know this may sound silly, but when you're online constantly looking at other people deal a lot of damage or clearing content in 5 seconds, it may make you feel as though you need to do the same exact thing. But in reality, you don't. The fact of the matter is that while you may see people doing a lot of big damage numbers, even including myself, you don't technically need to be dealing a crap ton of damage in order to clear the content in the game. I see a lot of people saying that they hate artifact hunting, that it's so tedious, and they don't find it fun, but they want their characters to hit harder. And I totally understand that. Seeing your characters optimized is extremely satisfying, but I think it's really important to realize that you don't have to have them perfect straight away. This game is going to be here for a very long time, guys, and so you have a long time in order to optimize your characters. If you don't feel like artifact hunting on a certain day, just wait a little bit until you do feel like you have the energy for it. Those artifact dungeons aren't going anywhere. If you don't do them straight away, it's not like your RNG is going to be any better or worse. So you might as well treat it as endgame content, take your time with it, and use it whenever there isn't something else interesting going on in the game. And since we're on the topic of interesting things happening in the game, let's talk about Genshin Impact's entire model, which is centered around the fear of missing out. One thing that you've probably noticed by now, especially if you're an older player, is the fact that Genshin Impact constantly has events happening every single patch. However, the big caveat is that they are time limited and they will disappear after that patch, which means that you have to play them right then and there, or else you'll miss out on all the rewards and the actual gameplay. And while I actually do enjoy having limited events every single patch, it does create this illusion that you have to constantly be playing, otherwise you will be missing out. This is especially detrimental to free-to-play players because a lot of primos are gated behind these events. So if you do not play them and you do not complete them, you will be missing out on a valuable resource and therefore run the chance of not getting one of your favorite rate-up characters. I want to make it very clear that this is not specific to Genshin Impact, this is a gacha game thing in general. They want to prey on your fear of missing out so that you're constantly playing, you're constantly logging back into the game so that you can try to get as many rewards for yourself as possible. However, the very big and very apparent problem with this is that it can very quickly lead to burnout. If you are not enjoying the event or it feels like a chore that you have to do in order to get a reward, then obviously you're not going to be happy playing the game. So what's the solution to this if you don't want to play constantly? Well, if you're a whale, then you don't really have to worry about it. Only play when you want to because you can always get the primo gems however you want to. But for free-to-play players, it is a little more complicated. If you are a completely free-to-play player or just a low spender, then you probably still want to be playing the events even if you don't want to. I know that sucks, but that's just how it is. However, I do think that there are a couple different ways that you can go about it to make it a little bit easier on yourself. The first option is just playing every day, but playing only a little bit every day. If you haven't noticed already, almost all the events are time gated, meaning that you're only supposed to play a little bit at a time. This way, if you're already logging in every day, you're only going to be playing for 20 to 30 minutes on the events in order to get all the rewards. This way, you're also taking in the event in bite-sized pieces, so you're not going to overwhelm yourself. However, maybe you don't feel like playing every day, so it would actually be better for you to hold off on playing the event, wait until the end, and then steamroll it all at the end. I don't recommend this one nearly as much as the first one just because it is easier to mess up and not get all of your rewards if you get too tired towards the end. But if you are the type of player that finds it tedious to log in every day and you just want all the rewards in one go, this might be your best option. Again, just keep in mind that these are time gated, so just make sure that you're getting all your rewards in time. Next up, I do want to quickly talk about endgame content because this has been a very major issue since basically the beginning of the game. If you have been playing a very long time, especially since the beginning of Genshin Impact, you've probably run out of endgame content. Sure, we may have limited events that are challenging, or even Spiral Abyss that change every 2 weeks or so, but besides that, there isn't much endgame content besides grinding. And when most players realize this, they start to get a little bit burnt out because they're like, well, I have all these characters fully built out, they do a lot of damage, but there's not hard enough content for me to constantly play that's engaging. And as a player that's been 36 starring Abyss for a while now, I can tell you it does get boring after a while. So what's one way that we can actually work around this? Well, one way that I like to do things and make sure that I'm still interested in the game is by creating small challenges for myself. Essentially creating harder content in the game since MiHoYo hasn't created consistent hard content in the game themselves. So what might this look like? Well, I have to keep beating Ajdaha in order to get his weekly stuff, so why not try tackling him without any healers? Or even harder than that, without any shielders. Or sure, I might be able to 36 star Abyss with 4 characters on each team, but can I do it with 3 characters on each team, or even 2? Fun fact, I actually did do a challenge for myself way back when I first started this account. I soloed every single boss in the game only using Zhongli as my main DPS. Yes, and back then that did include the Geohypostasis. And yes, trust me, it was brutal. And then after I beat all the regular bosses, I then made a challenge for myself to fight all the weekly bosses, which was only 3 at the time. But the catch was that I couldn't take any damage, and again, I could only use Zhongli. Did it take a whole bunch of tries? Yes. Did I get extremely frustrated trying to do it? Yes. But I also have to admit, it was some of the most fun that I ever had while playing Genshin Impact, and it was because I gave myself self-enforced rules. I know that this isn't probably for everyone, and I know that not everyone wants everything to be super challenging, but if that's what you feel like you're missing, you can easily make some rules for yourself and challenges for yourself to make the game far more interesting. So next time you are really bored and you feel like you have nothing to do, try soloing a boss, see how far you can go, see if you can do it without items. This game may be pretty easy when you have a full team, but it's definitely not when you start taking off some of your teammates. And on that note, but in a completely different vein, another way that you can give yourself a challenge is by opening your map, quickly looking where you haven't 100%ed everything, and make it your mission to 100% that area. Again, I know that this isn't for everyone, but if you're like me and you like exploring, this is a great way to spend your time. It's pretty relaxing, but it's also very challenging because there are some hidden secrets, some hidden chests that are just very hard to find. Or maybe there's a puzzle that you still haven't figured out. I think it's very easy to forget that these things are still in the game because once we get a little bit tired of them, we forget to come back to them. But let me tell you, as someone that has 100%ed all of Mondstadt, all of Dragonspine, and all of Liyue, that it is extremely satisfying finally seeing those numbers hit 100. However, despite having 100%ed all of Mondstadt, Dragonspine, and Liyue, I am taking my time with Inazuma because I don't want to run out of content too quickly. I personally really love exploring, and I think that it's one of Genshin Impact's greatest strengths, so I'm going to take my time with Inazuma and make sure that I enjoy it every step of the way. But just by knowing that I haven't 100%ed any of these areas keeps me coming back to the game knowing that I still have content to do down the line. And by time I do finally finish all of Inazuma, I'm pretty sure that the Dendro area will not be too far away. Also, another thing unrelated to combat that you can do if you need a break from combat-oriented gameplay is to spruce up your Teapot. I think that a lot of people forget that the Teapot even exists anymore. I know that most people play for combat, but for those that like a little bit of variety in their gameplay, you can always go to this if you need a different itch to scratch. Keep in mind that they're constantly updating this and they're adding more and more to it as we go. For example, they just added the new Inazuma theme and with it a whole bunch of Inazuma furniture. It does suck that you do have to get your tree level all the way up to level 40 if you do want to unlock the Inazuma realm, but at least that's another goal to achieve down the line. But I do still think that this is still a very valuable tool in order to avoid burnout because it gives you yet another way to play Genshin Impact. Instead of being high-strung and constantly in battle, you can also take time to relax and just mess around with some furniture every once in a while. Remember, it's totally fine to have fun and be creative, not everything has to be about the fastest clear time. And lastly, but probably most importantly, if you are feeling burnt out, if you are not enjoying playing Genshin Impact, it's okay to take a break. Like I said, this game really tries to make sure that you feel as if you are missing out if you're not playing constantly. But if it's not healthy for you, if you're not enjoying it, remember at the end of the day, Genshin Impact is just a game, just like any other game. You're not forced to play it if you do not want to. Sure, you might be at a disadvantage if you are not getting as many Primo Gems as you can possibly get, but overall, why would you want to play a game that you're not enjoying playing? I personally think that if you are feeling burnt out and you're not enjoying it, just take a couple days off. Or at the very least, only log in and do your commissions and then log back out. Try playing another game that you've had on your radar but just haven't picked up yet. Watch that TV show or movie that you still haven't gotten around to. Go outside and breathe some fresh air and touch some grass. As someone who does personally hyperfixate on things that I love, I completely understand feeling the innate need to constantly come back to something, or feel like you're not getting the most out of something if you're not doing something 100%. But ultimately, what's more important, your actual enjoyment and happiness, or making sure that you play a video game every day? Genshin Impact will always be here. It's supposed to have a 10-year life cycle, so if you take a few day break, it's not like it's going to disappear anytime soon. So if you needed someone else's permission in order to take a break, I'm personally giving you permission. Take a few days off. I promise you Genshin Impact will still be here, and I'll be here too. And on a more personal note, the reason why I've been feeling a little bit more Genshin Burnout wasn't because I'm not enjoying playing the game, but more has to do with MiHoYo's treatment of the general community and how they've been handling the game and their PR as of late. I love Genshin Impact, and I love making content about Genshin Impact. I love making guides, and I love talking with you guys. But the way MiHoYo has been handling their game as of late has really been leaving a very bad taste in my mouth, and consequently, it's made me feel less passionate about the game more recently. I'm really passionate about the game, but I just don't know about the direction that the company is taking it in. But I suppose we're only going to be able to tell how things go with time. And since I was feeling burnout myself, I wanted to take some time to make sure that I could help some people that might be on the brink of burnout not feel burnout. Or even for those that are currently feeling burnout, to finally let them know that it's fine to take a break. In all honesty, I do think that 2.2 is the perfect time to relax a little bit. There isn't a whole lot of content in the game currently, and besides Ito and Goro, I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of content in 2.4 either. However, instead of looking at this as only a negative thing, this is actually a perfect time to take a break, or to just play casually and save up as many primos for the characters that you want down the line. We've hit the slow phase of Genshin Impact, and I want you all to be braced for that, but I wanted to let you guys know my thoughts and let you know that I'm going to be here through the majority of it. If you did end up liking the video, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. It really does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. I'd love to have you along for the ride. Alright guys, that's all for now. Try not to burn out. Until next time, best wishes. Bye.